would like to thank our seminar supporter, Mitsubishi Tanabe Pharma America, for supporting this seminar. We would not be able to provide these educational programs without the support of our generous partners. Our concluding session will focus on adaptive vehicles, and I'd like to welcome our presenter, Randy Schiller. He's a regional vice president of AMS Vans, and I think you're based in Arizona, right, Randy?
I am Phoenix, Arizona. Can you hear me okay? Am I doing it right?
Yes, you are. We
All
can
right.
hear you great. I'm going to go ahead and switch here to your PowerPoint. But if you want to get started, introducing yourself a little bit, and I'll switch
Yeah, so
over
I'm the
here.
last presenter, so I'm the last thing between everybody getting off this call. That's a lot of pressure to put on me, so really appreciate that. Hey, everybody, my name is Randy Schiller. I am with AMS Vans. I'm the regional vice president based here in Phoenix, Arizona. A little bit about me. I've been in this industry for 15 years now. I've worked both on the manufacturer and the retail side. So I worked for VMI Vans, and then I left VMI to go work for a local mobility dealer. And then we sold that company. I came back to VMI. So it's kind of neat that I've had both angles, both from a manufacturer that builds the van and sells it to our dealers, and then also as a dealer that sells it to our end users, to our customers. So it's been fun. Before I got in mobility, I spent 7 years working for Honda. Then I have quite the eclectic career. I spent 7 years as a DJ in radio for KISS FM here in Phoenix, Arizona. I also spent 5 years working at Southwest Airlines, and I started my young career at 15 working for my father's German butcher shop. So I was a sausage maker for about 10 years. So quite the background that led me to mobility. But you know, it's really mobility is really, in my opinion, has changed my life. I've been here 15 years. You know, in all those other careers, you have fun and you help people, but in this industry, it's not just helping people, you actually change people's lives. So it's been really awesome. I love having customers. I love telling my first introduction to mobility was my first week on the job. It was actually my second day, and we were training. I was training with the guy that I was replacing up in Salt Lake City, and we're standing there with a customer, and I'm standing there, and the customer in the wheelchair is next to me, and her husband and the guy training me and the salesman were in the vehicle. So her and I were just kind of chit-chatting, and I really hadn't had much exposure to somebody in a wheelchair and knew what it was like. And I was talking to her, and she started to tear up, and I asked her, I said, "Oh, is everything okay? Do you need something?" And she said, "Well," she said, "I'm 47 years old, and I'm going to drive a car for the first time in my life." And it just hit me. Like, I started tearing up, like how, you know, I was 16 on the day of my birthday. I made my mom take me to get my license, and this person waited 47 years to drive a car, and they were just so excited. So it's a great little industry to be in. Fun fact, born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. So with that said, I will tell you, I am horrible at spelling and grammar, so please don't judge my PowerPoint because my wife is out of town and I didn't get it proofread. So, and I like to have a lot of fun. You'll know that about me. So with that said, we're going to talk a lot about buying an accessible vehicle, buying a wheelchair accessible vehicle. We call them WAVs, WAVs. But how does someone go about that? What does it look like? So kind of the path of getting into that. So I'll go to the next slide. So the first thing is, what do all these vehicles have in common? You know, and by looking at this picture, you can obviously tell they're all wheelchair accessible. They all have ramps that somebody in a wheelchair can get in the vehicle. What makes all these vehicles different is those are all different manufacturers. They're all different styles, and they're all different vehicles for what they do for the customer. So some customers will be just a passenger. Some customers will be a driver. Some customers might be a passenger that turns into a driver down the road. But every vehicle has a fit for every customer. So one of the big things we'll talk about is what customers' needs are, what their wants are, and how they fit in the vehicles. But there are over 20 different manufacturers in this industry right now. There used to be even more. A lot of them have gone out of business. A lot of them have gone under. but there's that many manufacturers just making these vehicles for our customers. So it's really cool that there are that many choices out there. Next slide. So what are the first things to do when they're looking, when someone's looking for an accessible vehicle? I always say the first thing to do is establish your timeline for your purchase. So, you know, if you're looking 0 to 3 months, you're really going to have to jump in, you know, especially, you know, right now in today's economy and world where we are, cars are hard to come by. They're not as easy as it used to be. There's lots of people looking to get cars. They're hard to find. As a manufacturer, we constantly struggle to get vehicles from our vendors because there's just not a lot of cars with the supply shortage and part shortage out there. It's very, very tough to get vehicles. So if someone's looking right now, they're really going to have to jump in. They're going to have to figure out what they're looking to do, how they're looking to do it, and they're really going to have to make some quick decisions. I always like the 3 to 6 months. If you got 3 to 6 months, you got time for research. How do you research in this industry? I suggest always going on the websites, going out, looking at the different manufacturers, looking at the different vehicles. You know, there are a lot of forums and there are a lot of blogs out there that go around wheelchair accessible vehicles. People can read up. They can find out different manufacturers, what they do differently. They can find out from other people like that may have similar stories to theirs, how they've handled and what they do it. So that 3 to 6 month time frame is really gives you time to research, kind of tells you what you're out looking for and how you want to get it. The 6 to 12 months, you got plenty of time. You know, that's, you really got to think about your life, where you're at, what you're going to do. You know, if you're at 12 months out, you've got time to change your decisions. You got time to move things around. You know, and then when we talk about more than a year out, you really got to research because this industry changes just like the car industry. So my particular company, we buy, you know, from Honda, Toyota, and Chrysler. Well, as we know, those manufacturers, they change their vehicles all the time. So we have to adapt to their changes, and that allows our customers to adapt to those changes as well. So if someone's like, I'm thinking about buying in the next year or two, I will always say, just keep looking, just keep researching, because you never know, you know, every year something changes. I mean, this is the first year in 2022, you know, was the first year that we did a hybrid vehicle, you know, and it was challenging. Obviously, it's very challenging when you're talking about converting a vehicle, but now you're converting a hybrid, the different electronics, the different components. And, you know, a lot of the manufacturers, they're going to start going to more hybrids. Like Honda's going to go to hybrid. We know Chrysler already has one. They're going to go back to it. So there's always things that'll change, you know, when you're farther than a year out. So when someone's got a year, I always tell them, just keep researching, just keep looking, you know, stay involved, get on blogs, get on websites, and research what you're looking for. So first thing is establish a timeline. Next slide. So what are the first steps? I take this right out of the old who, what, when, where, and why. Who is the van for? Is it for a family member? Is it for a spouse? Is it the husband or wife in the chair? Is the child in the chair? Maybe it's grandma, or maybe it's mom. You know, who is the van gonna be for? Because that's gonna be a big part of your decision-making process. What will they be doing in the van? So for instance, if somebody, you know, if you've got maybe your parents who are elderly and they're a little older, they're not going to use the van as much as you with your kids that are running around to go into different events. So that makes you kind of look at what kind of different vans, what kind of options you're going to look at. When will you use the van? When will they use it? Are they using it every day? We have customers here that they use their van every single day. It's their lifestyle. It's how they get to work and back. It's how they get their child to school and back. Then we have some customers that use it once a week. They go to a doctor's appointment once a week. Maybe on Sunday they go to church. They don't use the van as much. And all that'll play in your decision making of what you're going to buy and how you want to buy it. So for instance, I'm just going to use an example. If it were me buying a van for one of my parents and I just want to get them to, you know, doctor's appointments once in a while and church on Sundays, I don't have to buy the most expensive van on the market with all the bells and whistles, with all 0 miles because I'm going to keep it forever, because I'm just using it as kind of a second car to get my parents around versus my everyday car. Where will you go? This is a good one. Where do you go? A lot of people, if you live, out in rural, let's say you live on a dirt road, you've got to look at, will this van make it in your dirt road to your house? Do you go camping a lot? Do you tow? There are people that like to tow with their vehicles. Well, there are a lot of vehicles that can't tow, and you've got to find the right vehicle that will allow you to tow, take a boat, take a trailer, do things like that. And then why are you buying? A lot of people, we get a lot of customers with young kids that we just had one last week in our store. That lady has a 7-year-old kid in a chair, and she just said she's just having a hard time picking her son up and putting her son in the back seat of her Honda Accord, breaking the chair down, putting the chair in the trunk. It's just weighing in on her, and she's in her, she's like mid to late 30s, and she's already experiencing back pains and things like that. So for her, she's buying because she needs her back to feel better, and for her. So why are you buying the vehicle? That's a great first question to ask. So it's the who, what, when, where's. There's tons of questions within that, but lots of things to think about. Next slide. So how do we know which vehicle is right? There's two vehicles. There's a side entry and there's a rear entry. And this is a great question that I get asked all the time in this industry. There's no right or wrong answer. The right answer is, it's the vehicle that works best for the clients, for the customers. There are some people that absolutely love the rear entry because they can park in any parking spot. They don't have to worry about trying to find an accessible parking spot. They can park in any parking spot. I know other people that don't like the rear entry at all because they feel like their child or their loved one that's in the chair is in the back of the vehicle and not in the middle around everybody. So like in the side entry, your child, let's say you got a family of three kids and a mom and dad, 2 of the kids sit in that rear seat, the one child in the chair sits in the middle, and the mom and dad sit up front. So that feels more inclusive, that everybody's together kind of thing. So it really is no right. And people ask, well, what's the right one? I'm like, there is no right one. It's the one that fits what customers want, what that person is looking for, and really what's around their lifestyle. Another thing is, with the rear entry, you really lose any cargo space. So if you travel, let's say you go up to, the mountains once in a while to stay at a cabin, you have nowhere for your luggage, your bags, things. You have that in a side entry because you can put it behind the back seat. Where in the rear entry, you're putting that stuff all around your loved one, and it's not safe at all because you're not tying that stuff down, and it's not comfortable for them to feel like they're in back with the luggage. So it's no right or wrong. It just depends on how they're going to use it and what they're going to do with it. Next slide. So then the other question is, how do I know which vehicle is right for me? Do I get a van? Do I get a truck? Do I get an SUV? Do I get a full-size van? Those are so many questions that, again, it's going to come down to the customer. So for instance, if somebody came into my store and said, hey, it's me and my wife, we have 4 children, one's in a wheelchair, I would never recommend a minivan, because 4 children and a husband and a wife, 6 people in a van is going to be really, really tight. That means 3 of those children are going to sit on that back bench seat, and it's a tight bench seat for 3 people. You'll have, not a lot of room to move around in there with 3 kids in there. So with families with multiple children, I always recommend a full-size van. There's more room, there's more seats, there's more adaptations done to it. And it's kind of funny, like that white Ford there, that's a side entry lift. It goes back to the other slide. That could be a rear entry lift. It comes back to which lift works best. Some people love the truck. I mean, we get a lot of young people that are in wheelchairs, not married, don't have kids, that they don't want to drive a minivan. They feel like, minivan soccer mom. I don't want to drive a minivan. So they opt for the truck. The truck is a very unique product. It offers a whole different slew of options. You can tow with the truck. You can go out on dirt roads with the truck. Your ground clearance is much higher in a truck. So it just depends on again, it goes back to that question of which van is right. It's the van that fits customers the best. And a big thing I try to say in this industry is it's really about the customer. It's not about the van. It's not about what I want to sell them. It's about what the customer wants. And most importantly, what the customer needs, because their needs and wants might be different. Their needs might be, I say this, no one wants to go out and buy a wheelchair accessible vehicle. They're expensive. They're more than a regular car, but they need to because they have somebody that's in a wheelchair that they are in their life that they need. So that's a need. They need to have this product. But it's all about the customer and what fits the customer best. I will tell you, I've seen it done. I don't agree with it. I fully believe that the customer should really be the focal point of the vehicle. It shouldn't be about anything else but who's going to use that vehicle. Next slide. And I don't know if we have questions popping up, if you want to stop me at any time for questions, or if we just want to do them at the end. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. So there's three ways that most manufacturers sell their vehicles. And it's basically new, used new, and used. And that breaks down, a new is a brand new van that we buy from the manufacturer. We convert it, or the manufacturing companies convert it. Once it's converted, they sell it to a mobility dealer who sells it to the customer. That's a new. A used new might be where let's say we call Avis, and Avis says, yeah, we got 50 vans we want to sell. We buy those 50 vans from Avis, so they're used. We run them through a recon process. Then we send them out for manufacturing. They get converted. Then they get sold. So it's a brand new conversion on a used van. And then the last would be like a used. So that's something where somebody buys a van, they keep it 2-3 years, they're no longer need the van, they sell it, we buy it, they sell it online. That would be considered a used. On all these three things, the other thing that you want to talk that customers also want to know is about warranty. So obviously with a new, all new vehicles come with a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty. Our VMI's conversion, and most manufacturers, I will say that, most manufacturers' conversion marry that. So you get a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on the conversion. On a used new, let's say we bought a used Toyota with 50,000 miles and we put a new conversion. The Toyota would have no warranty, but that conversion still has a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty. And then on a used, you have zero warranty unless it's new enough that it has manufacturer warranty from the manufacturer of the van, or if it's new enough, it has manufacturer warranty from the conversion. So these two pictures, I thought this is a great example. These two pictures are on my current website. One is new and one is used. You would have no clue because you just can't really tell. But the top one is actually a used. So that was a van that somebody bought. They had it for about a year. They no longer needed it. They traded it in. That van has about 7,000 miles on it. The bottom van is a brand new van that we just converted. But that's the thing, you just don't know until you jump into it. And some of them obviously are newer used vans, that one's just a year old. And then, there are some companies that sell up to 20, 25-year-old vans. So it really depends, and that'll go into budget. We'll get into that just a little bit, kind of what the budget they're looking for. So that's basically how the three different types of vehicles that are sold out there. Next slide. So what are some payment options? There are a ton of payment options. Depending on the van you pick, it could be anywhere from 20,000 to 90,000 plus, depending on the equipment you get. So most wheelchair accessible dealers have financing options. They'll have a bank they work with. They'll have several banks they work with. We work a lot with Ally. A lot of dealers work with Ally. If your loved one, or if you're working with someone as a vet, they have different incentives. We tell you to check with your local VA, because the joke in the industry, if you've been to one VA, you've been to one VA. Everyone runs a little bit different, but there's some really good incentives out there. In some cases, the VA will pay a one-time fee of just over $21,000 for just the van, and then they will completely pay for the conversion. So if you bought a lower priced unit, let's say you bought a Chrysler Pacifica entry level, those are about $33,000. In that situation, the veteran would only have to come up with about 12,000, and then they own the van because the VA pays for the one time on the van and the one time on the conversion. The other incentive is they pay the conversion only, and then the person has to buy the van. So there are different incentives out there. Always check with, if someone is a veteran, check with the VA. We've heard of customers do two different things. They go to a GoFundMe account, or they go to Help Hope Live. Help Hope Live, I personally like a little bit better. And the reason why is GoFundMe. GoFundMe takes a percentage of the money that's raised for them, where Help Hope Lives does not. Help Hope Live actually controls the money. So if you raise $30,000, you get all 30,000, and Help Hope Live pays for it on your behalf. So you don't actually get the money; it comes right from them. So it's a little bit better, but there's so many organizations out there. A lot of people work with their local groups, the MDA, the ALS, MS, Spina Bifida. There's so many local groups and local nonprofits that are out there doing work. Obviously, going on the website, researching, blogging, looking at that kind of stuff, you'll find that different thing. We have a lot of customers that work with their church groups. There's a lot of different church groups that will help customers. They look for money for customers. Excuse me, we get a lot of here in Phoenix, at our store in Phoenix, we do a lot of work where sometimes a customer will have a vehicle that has a lift on the back. It's not necessarily a wheelchair accessible vehicle, but they have a lift that they just stow a scooter on, and they go to sell the car and they need it removed, and we remove it, and they'll say, we don't want it. Well, we'll put it up on our shelf, we'll keep it in back. And if we get a local church group that says, hey, we're trying to help one of our members just get a lift on their vehicle, we'll just give them the lift. We don't, we're not profiting on that. We got it for free. We'll just pass it on to them, and we'll charge them a small fee for installation that, will help out. So there's lots. And I know I've been in this industry 15 years. I know a lot of the dealers all over the country. A lot of dealers will do this kind of stuff. They'll work with the customer. They'll work with the church groups to help make sure they can do and help out there. Next slide. Wow, I'm blowing through these. I hate to tell you that this probably is not going to be 15 minutes. I apologize. I could keep talking because I was in radio, but we could also end early. We have to. So what are some important questions to ask? To me, this is, there's two things about this. What is the time frame, for keeping the van? A lot of people, if they're just, so for instance, if you get a customer, if somebody comes in that says, look, my father has Alzheimer's. I need to get him to a doctor's appointment. I need him to get him dinner. He's not doing well. If the customers come in kind of telling you they know it's not going to be a long-term thing, I'll talk them out of spending $80,000 on a vehicle. I mean, it's just, if you're not going to keep it that long and you're just looking for something temporary, then look for something a little less inexpensive. You don't need to spend all that money if you're not going to keep it a long time. The big question to ask is, what is the best decision for me and my family? And I talked about that in the beginning. I said, it's all about you. It's all about the customers and what the customers want. That really is a question that they need to keep in their mind, is what's best for them? How will they be best fitted to use this vehicle? Things that I think are important to ask. The vehicle I'm buying, is it crash tested? There are some companies in this industry that build these vehicles and they don't crash test them. The company I work for does crash tests. A lot of the big ones do, but there's a lot of the little ones that don't crash test. Is that important? I think it is. Some people say no, but I think it's very important, because what people don't understand is when you take a vehicle, we basically take a vehicle, we cut the whole floor from out of the vehicle and put a whole new floor that's 14 inches lower into the vehicle. When you take that much out of the vehicle, you're really working on the integrity of the vehicle. You want to make sure that it's right. And that's why we crash test every vehicle we build. Questions asked is, does it have a clean Carfax? Unfortunately, there are some companies that buy these vans that are damaged, they fix them, they put them together, and should ask for a clean Carfax. This is a big one. I threw this on there. Who is the manufacturer? You want to ask that because there are a lot of manufacturers that have gone out of business or just recently or a while ago. And the one problem you have, and we just had a customer about 2 months ago that bought a van online, came to us for a repair, and unfortunately that company went out of business about 7 years ago. Finding parts to fix the vehicle, very, very, very challenging. I mean, the van was in our shop for almost a month because we couldn't find the part. We had to, I mean, you have to go in and really search to, the internet, eBay, Craigslist to try to find these parts. So who is the manufacturer? You want to make sure you got a manufacturer that's still in business or that still at least carries parts or does parts. So that's a big question. The other one is, who are they buying the vehicle from? Are they buying it from a local dealer like myself or like another dealer across the country? Are they buying it from a private party? There are people that buy vans that don't need them along and sell them, and sometimes they'll buy them online. So all good places to look, but you just got to make sure they do their research. If you buy from a private party, I'd recommend getting a Carfax because you don't know if that van's been crashed or not. You don't know if it's been repaired or not. If you buy it online, again, just check with who you're buying from. Make sure they're a reputable company. Make sure it's something they've done before in the past, and it's not just some fly-by-night company that's trying to throw vans online and trying to make a quick dollar. Next slide. Remember, this is your van. I love to tell customers that because it really is, it is their van. I tell people, do not let anyone talk you into a van that you don't want. I will never do that. I know there's a lot of dealers across the country that will never do that. I mean, this is about you and your needs. It's not about me and selling a vehicle. It's about making sure I take care of a customer. So never let anybody talk a customer into something they don't feel comfortable with or that they don't need. I always say that they're the ones that are paying good money. I mean, again, up to $80,000, $90,000. That's a big, big, big commitment. Dealers will offer suggestions. Most dealers won't steer customers in the wrong way, but in the end, just remember that these customers are paying the money. So it's their choice. It's not my choice. It's my customer's choice what they want to do. We always talk about making sure they do their research. That's a big thing. There's so many companies out there. Make sure you feel comfortable with the one they choose. If you get recommended somebody, go online and go, that's the greatest thing about the internet. You can type in anything and it'll tell you anything about the vehicles in there. So always go online, always talk to customers about what's best, what works for them, and just make sure that they've chose the one that they're going to be comfortable with. And then lastly, I always say this, always think about what's best for your loved ones. We definitely try, as in this industry, we have to try to do what's best for the customers. And again, yeah, we might have vans that we want to sell that's been on my lot for a while and I'm trying to push it. But if it's not the right van, it's simply not the right van. It's got to be the right fit. This is not, and I say this jokingly, but it's not like trying on a pair of jeans at Target that you take home and they don't fit, you take them back. You can't do that. So you've really got to do your research. You really got to think about your loved ones and make sure that that van's the right fit because it's your loved ones that you're taking care of. It's their drive of what they're going to do, where they're going to go, how they're going to use the van. And what's crazy is there's no puzzle piece. Every customer is different. Every customer's disability is a little bit different. Some have this, some have that. Everybody's a little different, and making sure you match them up is the definitely want to go. There's a question I see. Do I see that, Marissa, right? Am I looking at that right? Or there's all kinds of stuff. All right, we'll get the questions. You know what? Next slide. Hey, everybody.
There you go.
I did throw my email and my phone number down there too, and you can keep this. You can give this slide to anyone. That's fine. if you guys ever have any questions or ever anything, if I'm available, I will definitely jump in and help. I do see we had some questions pop in, so.
Yeah, it looks like there's a question here. I have a manual wheelchair and an electric scooter. What kind of car would I need to get to fit my needs?
So there's two ways to go. If you have a manual wheelchair and you have an electric scooter, if you're taking both, obviously a minivan is going to give you enough room to put both those in there. The question I would have of the person is the wheelchair, do they drive from their wheelchair or do they transfer? Because in most manufacturers, not all, but most, driving and passengers are both options you can have. So like in the VMI conversions, that driver seat is removable so that the person in the wheelchair literally can roll right in, sit right from the driver from their chair and drive right from the vehicle. Some people like to transfer, so they make a transfer seat that brings the seat backwards. They transfer over from their wheelchair and they go forward. Some people are passengers, so they just sit on the passenger side. If it's just a scooter, sometimes you don't have to get a van. I mean, we just had a lady in here probably 3-4 months ago that she's in a scooter. She can still walk a little bit. She was looking at vans and she was, she's budget conscious, doesn't really have a lot of money. She had herself a little Nissan Frontier, I believe, no, Pathfinder. And we sold her a lift that basically goes on the back of her Pathfinder. The lift comes down, she rolls right up on her scooter, she stands off of it, it lifts the scooter up, she walks around her drivers and drives away. So she didn't need a van right now. And she has MS. She said that down the road, she knows she's going to be in a chair. So down the road, that's someone, but they don't have to spend their money right now, then we talk them out of that. So if you have a wheelchair and a scooter, pretty much any accessible vehicle will fit both of those.
Great.
Long-winded
Randy,
question, sorry.
What's that?
That was a long-winded question, sorry.
No problem. Another question. We live in the snow belt in Wisconsin. Who makes all-wheel drive accessible vehicles like Toyota? Who makes the accessible vehicles?
So ironically, there's only one company, VMI. There's only one company that makes an all-wheel drive vehicle right now, and that is VMI. They do the Toyota Sienna. It is the brand new one. It's not the older Toyotas. It's only the new ones that are all-wheel drive that are the hybrids. So there is an all-wheel drive van on the market. It's the Toyota. Beautiful vehicle, great vehicle, but that's the one that was actually one of our Toyota. It's our top seller right now is the all-wheel drive.
And then a third question came in. What is the difference between Mobility Works and Braun Ability?
So just two different companies. So Mobility Works, well, let me back up. So Mobility Works is the company that sells vehicles. So kind of like I'm AMS Vans. AMS Vans sells vehicles. VMI makes vehicles. VMI owns us. They make the vehicles. Mobility Works sells Braun and VMI. And then Mobility Work also has a company called Driverge that's their own company. And they are starting to make their own vehicles as well. But Mobility Works is a dealer for Braun. Braun is a manufacturer.
Gotcha. Another question, are there any electrical vehicles that are wheelchair accessible?
So there are no fully electric, only the Toyota Sienna, which is hybrid. There are no current electric vehicles available. There is, if somebody is, so we've had 2 of them so far where the person is in a manual chair and they have the ability to transfer to a car and then they break their chair down and put it in the passenger seat. We've done 2 Teslas so far. So that has been fully electric. They are very challenging, but they're also very, it's a very complex car. But if somebody can break their wheelchair down, they can go into any vehicle. So you could go into any electric vehicle out there. We would just have to work with that manufacturer for the hand controls to make sure the hand controls, obviously with Tesla, there's so much autonomous to it. You got to make sure the hand controls work with that. But only electric would be the hybrid, and that's the Toyota Sienna. and that's made by VMI, Braun, and Freedom makes, I believe, a rear entry hybrid.
Well, Randy, thank you so much for being here. We certainly appreciate.
Thank
Oh,
you
go
for
ahead.
allowing me to be here. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I appreciate any time we can talk about our industry, and our customers. I love it. We do a lot here with the local MDA. Sarah, I love the group here. It's a great organization, and we're just happy. I'm happy to be able to present today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Randy. We again appreciate your time and your expertise. We also want to recognize and thank our seminar supporter, Mitsubishi Tanabe Pharma America, for their generous support. Their support really helps MDA provide meaningful programs like this to the community. So thank you.